podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Loss to Everton, 2-0 loss to City, somehow still in the top four race because the rest of the top four hopefuls won't put us out of our feeble misery. We're recording this at 10:05 on Wednesday night, so like in the immediate aftermath of the derby.
Feels good, doesn't it?
I don't know why we're here. I don't know what we can possibly
because
hope.
We're respecting the fans, Paul.
Yeah, okay, you're right.
That's it. Yeah, we're playing for the shirt, the Rankcast shirt, which you still haven't sent me, by the way.
No, I haven't sent anyone. It's a problem. I've got a big box.
Useless.
I know, I'm
much
sorry
like
about
our
that.
defence. 13 goals we've conceded since we last scored one. I think about 8 of them David De Gea has chucked in his own net.
So a friend of the show, Cal Gildart, sent me a message during this game saying, terrible from Dave. Still, that's proper top red behaviour, chucking one in to stop Liverpool.
Well, you remember Steven Gerrard against Chelsea a few years back? Not the slip. The one where we wanted Liverpool to get the back pass. That's it. And Chelsea won the league by a point.
But the thing is, though, unlike Steven Gerrard, David De Gea is smart. He has planned this in advance and made it look like he's turned into a weird pile of jelly for weeks on end, so that when he chucks one in against City, it looks plausible.
Yeah, I'd love to think that was true. So, where do you want to start?
I
know you don't want to. I know you keep telling me you don't want to talk about football anymore, and I think after 7 defeats in 9 games, many United fans are just wishing the season would be over. It will be very soon. We've got about 10 days left of this season, something like that. There are a few things we should talk about, though. There's the games against Everton and City. We haven't got any others to talk about, have we? Just those two. But there's the bigger picture, which I think a lot of fans have been talking about this week. So what does it mean in terms of where we go forward from here, and the golfing class to Europe's elite and, in fact, domestic? I was going to say domestic elite as well, but domestic mid-table, given what Everton did. Why this has happened. So is this Ole being found out? Is this a fitness issue, or is this the what appears to be the dominant narrative amongst the? I'm just going to call them, for the want of a better word, the Genev crowd, which is the players just don't care enough. And so those are the things I want to talk about: the games, why, and where we go from here.
All right. Well,
and where should we start?
Take your pick, Ed.
Let's talk about the games then. Let's talk about.
I'll come with you on this ride till it finally offers us the sweet relief of not having to talk about Man United ever again.
You've been, just as an aside, in the preamble to this one, I caught Paul not necessarily looking at Eric Cantona's Insta feed of
he's deleted
large
that, by
male
the way.
members. May or may not be Cantona's, we're not quite sure. But unfollowing Manchester United players, what is this sacrilege? In the medieval times, they'd have burnt you at the stake for this. What's going on?
I'm just sick of seeing them. To be fair, it's not entirely their fault. It's also the whatever the word is, non-chronological timelines on Instagram.
You can turn that off, can't you? Or at least you can on Twitter. Yeah.
No, you can't. And so you see stuff from before the match, after the match, and I just don't want to see it.
Yeah, it's nonsense.
But also hit them where it hurts, isn't it? If it's like, but genuinely, it is because I'm sick of the sight of all of them, to be honest. So
we'll see after a small break over the summer, see whether we can't come back refreshed. So Everton game, we had a small debate. Not a very lengthy one on the Rankcast WhatsApp group, the very exclusive Rankcast WhatsApp group, which you can purchase membership of at the £1,000 tier. No, I'm kidding.
It's just me, you, and Tom. Just to be clear, it's not like a secret group with listeners.
Shh. And David Gill. It's the Illuminati of Rankcastum. We had a small debate about, was that the worst performance of the post-Fergie era? And probably it's not, but it's pretty far up there. I mean, it's got all the hallmarks of some of the worst performances.
Yeah,
Absolute chaos on the pitch. I mean, the
yeah.
players didn't even look like they'd been on a training ground together most of the time. All 4 goals you could look at and say there was some kind of defensive error in there. You know, either set pieces and not defending it properly, or even one of them came from our own corner, didn't it? And then the attitude, and I really don't subscribe to the kind of G Nev school that it's all about their attitude, but there was something in the fact that United players ran collectively 5 miles less than Everton players. So, and the tactics, a little oddball again from Ole, I'd say. There's been he's trying to find his way out of this slump, and it is a slump, but it's looking a little eccentric. The selection against City came straight out the Fergie tombola, maybe literally, since Fergie's the hand of Fergie is playing its moves these days. And just the kind of the technical approach of United couldn't string a pass together. I mean, anybody basically. It was just a disaster all around. Anyway, my thoughts. Yours?
Yeah, I agree with almost all of that. I actually thought the selection against City and the tactics against City were pretty spot on, to be honest. But against Everton, it was just a complete mess from start to finish. Obviously, I mean, this is one where, in a way, it sort of defies analysis because we're almost all we can go on is the game. There has to be some sort of reason why the team was that bad in that game. I mean, you know, in my last ever United press conference, this is exactly the question I was trying to ask Mourinho, and I asked it slightly inarticulately, but he seemed to get the gist of what I was saying, and then he didn't answer it. But I was asking, what's up with the collective psychology of this team? Why, when things are good, do they look like world beaters? And as soon as their things are slightly less than ideal, they've got a huge capacity to just completely crumble. And this was another example of that. I mean, whether it's the worst performance since Fergie era, the 2-3-0s against City and Liverpool in the Moyes season, the Olympiacos game in the Moyes season, West Ham earlier this season under Mourinho. I mean, there's a few contenders. Some of the that Sheffield United game, which we eventually won under Van Gaal, Norwich around Christmas time under Van Gaal, which we lost.
There have been some stinkers, that's for sure. But I think this Everton game's in the top 10, top 5, maybe.
It's at least on a par with all of those that I've just listed, and that's really shocking. And I didn't think that everything would be lovely now that Solskjaer was in charge, but I have to say I was surprised to see a performance of that level of ineptitude. I didn't think we were going to see another performance like that this season.
No,
I really didn't.
And I do think there's an awful lot in the analysis that some of the more rational amongst our support have put forward, which is United have got a fitness problem. So, and he pushed them really, really hard in December and January, and he's now facing burnout. And you know, I have some sympathy with that. I don't sympathise so much with they don't care, because they clearly really did care during that opening period of Ole's reign. They clearly were enjoying football again, and they wanted to win, and it felt like a collective. And you know, the noise coming out of the club and the players and their Insta feeds, which you won't see anymore, and Wua's briefings, and all of it was, look, it's a turnaround. Everyone's feeling great. And everyone loves this club, and this is where we want to go. So I'm not sure that after a couple of defeats they suddenly just don't care anymore. I think it's too easy to say that. I do think he's right, Ole, to criticise the work rate. I just think there's an awful lot in the fact that they are facing some burnout, and really only 5% has to come off to start losing games. And there've been some close games in there, and there have been some games against some really top class opposition. The Everton game, though, and just how feeble they were, was a real shocker. And you felt in the press conference after that game, you really felt for Ole, because he looked broken, you know. And I think he picked himself up pretty quickly. I along with everyone else, watched the interview with Gary Neville, and I thought he was pretty resolute, Ollie, and pretty sensible in his words. He didn't sound defeatist in that one, but he definitely did after Everton. And just final word in a long ramble here. Just one other mitigating factor, and it's only a tiny mitigating factor. Everton has scored with a 0.02 xg, a 0.04 xg, and a 0.09 xg chances. Three of their, so there's some three, otherworldly, if not worldy, goals they scored there, which is a small mitigating factor in an otherwise pathetic performance.
I'll tell you what's been winding me up in the list of things. Honestly, my life would be so much happier if I didn't pay any attention to football. This podcast is the last thing keeping me heavily invested in the day-to-day of all of this. But anyway, the thing that's been doing my fruit is the kind of analytics crowd kind of crossing their arms and turning their nose up in the air and saying, well, we told you this would happen, as if the analytics haven't dropped off a cliff while the performances have dropped off a cliff. Like, so there was some outperforming of XG, but that's not what's not happening now. Isn't
this is not regression to the mean.
Exactly.
This is everything falling off a cliff.
This is a collapse in the mean.
No, that's right, and I don't think that other half of that story has been properly told. I think we've had this discussion before, haven't we, about some of the very smart people in the world of analytics not always being very good communicators. A bit like scientists trying to explain climate change. And they don't always get the message across. So, that's not great. I like to think on this podcast we use data in a reasonably explanatory point of view to not heavy-handed, just to talk about the game and for it to help our points, and to my previous point, Everton's XG was, depending on how you calculate it, either 1.4 or 0.95, right? So pointing to the fact that Everton didn't even have to be that good to win very heavily. So some freakishness, but an awful lot of very bad defending, allowing those chances to happen.
So the City game was a huge improvement. I mean, I thought that interview with Gary Neville, Solskjaer struck exactly the right tone, made 5 changes, played a back 5. I don't understand how Ashley Young got a game based on previous week's performance. I guess you could say similar about David De Gea, although he's got a much longer and deeper line of credit. But the... I sent a message to a few people after 10 minutes being like, we've had a bright first 10 minutes and haven't scored, therefore we're going to lose 4-0, which I was a half joking. But actually, we stayed in it a long time, and it wasn't until the half-hour mark that City had any measure of control. I thought playing free at the back really, really worked. I thought our midfield did a great job, and Rashford was causing their back 4 absolute heebie-jeebies. He had Vincent Kompany on toast.
Kompany, yes, who's definitely the weak link there, and his lack of fitness, I think, was properly targeted by United. Back 3 was okay for United. I mean, I think Solskjaer explained it well enough in his pre-match interview. A little surprised that Matteo Darmian was in there. And Ashley Young, given how awful he's been recently, and Diogo Dalot can probably feel a bit unlucky that he's not been given a chance, given how his principal competitor for that position has been pretty dreadful. And Darmian, I don't know how many games he's played this season. It's not a lot. And, it's absolutely shocking that United kept him for another year and didn't just offload him for whatever fee was going.
He was pretty good in this game, though.
He did all right. He did all right, Darmian. Yeah, and then look, structurally, United were fine. Very competitive. Second half, obviously, City got on top. Not just the goals, but just in terms of dominating possession and position on the pitch. And United sat back an awful lot and kind of stopped pressing. Maybe partly to do with just the narrative of the game and also fitness. I think, and City scored with a couple of goals that they really shouldn't have scored with. I've got to say, I think if David De Gea on top form, and I think I've defended him more on this pod than you've been inclined to do. David De Gea on top form saves both of those, I think.
Well, I mean, the second one, David De Gea on medium form saves. The first one, I don't know. That's again, it's that kind of like again that use the word narrative again. Yeah, and the idea that whenever you get beaten at your near post, you've made a mistake.
But this one, I don't think it's even that. I think it's just positioning. He's taken a step to the right. He's got himself in a bad position, and you can be beaten in the near post with shots taken early or extreme power. That wasn't even taken that early, and it wasn't. It was a grass cutter. So he's got to save that.
I mean, it was a snapshot, wasn't it? And it surprised him. But yeah, but that one you could extend him some generosity on that one. But the second one, I think, is just indefensible.
But against Everton as well, and I not that you can obviously say he definitely should have saved the one that went into the corner from somebody who I'm totally forgetting, and I'll come back to me in a second. Whoever. No, he didn't move, and I think the problem there is not that he should definitely have saved it, but it doesn't look to me that he's focusing during games. It looks to me that he's not in that sort of zone that all goalkeepers need to be in. And he faces a lot of shots, David De Gea, over the last few years, because United give up a lot of shots because they've had nobody who looks like a decent defensive midfielder for some time. And he's normally good with that. And there've been games where he's saved 20 shots.
Yeah, but
and at the moment he's not, and it just doesn't look like he's able to focus on what he needs to focus on.
I mean, I don't know what the solution is, and I don't know what the short, medium, or long term approach should be. But he's an absolute liability at the moment. I mean, he's worth a goal a game to the opposition, basically. I mean, he's been worth like 3 goals a game to us for ages. So, but he is, I mean, genuinely, over the last 10 games or whatever, he's been worth 0.7 of a goal to the opposition, basically. And that is a massive, massive problem. The one of the things I want to say about the structure and how effective it was, you mentioned pressing and you said United stopped pressing, but I actually don't think that's accurate, because I think we varied the kind of pressing triggers in quite an interesting way in this game, in a way that I've not necessarily seen so far, because there was definitely a kind of keep your shape approach once City got past about about the 25-yard line in their half. So the pressing was almost entirely done right from the front when the keeper or the centre-backs had the ball. And almost as soon as it went any deeper than that, United were dropping into their shape and trying to deny space. And City, I mean, we talked about data quite a lot and analytics in particular. And City had just over half a goal of XG in this game, which is incredibly low for them. And a lot of that was to do with United crowding the space in the box, I think. I think we denied them the opportunity quite effectively to do that, like drag back cross across, the byline low cross, what Karl Anker calls the triple tap cross, the FIFA triple tap cross, that they've done time and time and time again. They hardly were able to do that. And they actually had to score goals that are not normally the kind of goals that they score. So, the one thing we didn't do, though, was create substantial chances ourselves, because our XG was very similar. There was the Rashford shot from a million miles away. You can't call that a chance, but it was pretty close. A real confident and testing shot from about 100 yards out. Then there was the one where it looked like Lingard had dropped an absolute rick. The one where it bobbled around, it went to Rashford and he crossed it to Lingard at the back post, and Kompany kind of swung at it, and Lingard was just off balance and not in position to take it. I mean, I thought he was going to score there, and I think that might have been a 1-0. But yeah, it certainly would have changed the complexion of the game. I thought it was interesting. I know I've been talking for ages, but the last thing I wanted to say was just, I thought United's effort, collective endeavour, all of that was pretty good up till around 60 minutes. After 60 minutes, once it went 2-0, they looked lost, really, at that point.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the original point around pressing, I kind of think you made it too. So they went from pressing high up the pitch to basically a low block in the second half, and trying to squeeze Manchester City's attack into a very narrow area, which is okay as a defensive tactic. City can score all sorts of goals, though, can't they? They're one where they move around the back, and then they've got brilliant players who can score from anything, and then David De Gea helping them along the way in this one. I feel like I've run out of things to say about these games now. It was just so awful against Everton that at least there was a chance, I suppose, in quick succession to get some pride back. And United did in this game. Obviously, we want much more than that, than being just a bit competitive, but ultimately losing. It feels like Scotland losing to, some mediocre Eastern European team in the Euro qualifying final game, doesn't it? We did all right there, but
well,
no one at United wants to just do all right. We've got to do better than that. But it was better than Everton.
More like we lost with Scotland losing to Kazakhstan, and then we gave Spain an all right game. That's more like what it was like, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the disaster was the Everton game. I mean, that we are miles off City. We all know we're miles off City. I mean, we're miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles off City. We're miles off City at every level of the club.
Yep.
Well, when I say that, I mean senior men's football. I can't speak for the youth team, and I don't know how well organised the structures of the women's team are. Obviously, the City women's team are excellent, but I just mean in terms of the first team squad, organisation, squad development, all of that kind of stuff. We're not
25 points behind them, and that's probably a fair reflection of how far they are ahead as a club, and absolutely, and kind of comes to one of the things that I think we should talk about, which is just like, and I know we've talked a lot over the last 10 years on this podcast about these themes, but why we're here today and where we can go next, because it's been in the news a lot this week with the potential appointment at technical director as well.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know if I care. I really don't know if I care, because it would be great if they made massive sweeping structural changes and set the club up to be a massively successful football operation rather than like an ego trip and a money generator for a small handful of people. But that's not what's going to happen, probably. I'm glad the manager, I think I said this before, but if the whole thing's going to be a state, I'm glad that at least the manager's someone I like. That goes a long way with me. But yeah, they appoint a technical director. Great. I mean, first of all, it's extremely telling that he's called a technical director, because Woodward won't give up his fiefdom. He won't give up all his super fun football manager that he likes to play with, real life. The Glazers are going to still be sucking money out of the club. We're going to be here in 3 years' time saying, oh, well, Ole gave it a good shot, but, either he came up short or the club came up short or some combination of the two.
You're confident that he gets 3 years?
Well, yeah, quite. I mean, we're not going to win the league for, 5 years minimum? And that's if everything goes pretty much extremely correctly. Like,
yeah.
We've done a Liverpool. We have absolutely done a Liverpool. It's done now. That's it.
Yeah, for Liverpoolisation. But, I mean, Ollie was actually much more confident when a similar question was put to him by Gary Neville. And he said he was pretty confident. He sees something in the squad he's got and the players here, and he thinks in a couple of seasons that will be much more competitive. I mean, one thing, I feel like we've been here before in this conversation. So, one, I don't believe, as you don't believe, and you're sounding lots more depressed about it, I don't believe that United will restructure in the way that we really need to. I think you see that when certain favourites of Woodward put out stories. One was along the lines of, they don't believe a fundamental restructure behind the scenes is needed. They've done it in terms of coaching, right? Then comes the thing about Mike Phelan potentially getting the role of technical director. That's been sort of poo-pooed by the club afterwards, but if the word in the street is that it's someone who's going to oversee coaching, well, that would seem like a natural progression of the work they've been trying to do to make appointments at different coaching levels. Anyway, and maybe that was a problem. Maybe United were a long way behind, and certainly that was a feeling of many people who watch the academy teams, that United were falling behind in terms of the academy. So they got very good facilities. They've made some changes at the academy level. There's plenty of talented boys coming through those teams. Some of whom may get into the first team squad next season. But that's a very different one from the question around, can we actually use the money we've got as a club to work for us rather than against us, which is, either pouring out to the banks, which is going to continue. There's not going to be any end to that while the Glazer family are still in charge, until they sell out to either some Russian oligarch or petro sovereign wealth somewhere in the Middle East, or we use the money that's actually there and is spent in the transfer market and use it effectively, because actually Liverpool and their progression over the last 3 years has not come on the back of, they've spent lots of money, but they haven't spent orders of magnitude more than us, right?
No, of course not.
No, they've done it smartly, and they've got a structure that allows them to make the right kind of decisions. And we do not.
And they got the right manager for their position and their kind of club and all of that stuff, and fully backed him and all that. All of that was necessary. I guess one of the reasons I'm so, I don't know, just disheartened by the whole thing is how quickly everything's turned to absolute dust again, and also how exhausting I find everyone's reaction to it, including my own. Just the amount of people, going, oh, what a mistake it was to appoint Ole, or even it was a massive mistake to appoint him when they did. That's what's done for the season. And I just think maybe that's true, but we don't really know. We don't really. It's the frustration I find, ironically, having been part of it for so many years, it's the frustration I find with fan coverage of assumed knowledge, which, I try to stay away from myself, but I'm not always successfully, I should say. But I just find it I find the whole thing very upsetting, really. And I kind of question what is the point of covering United week to week? What do we get out of it? What do people get out of listening to us?
Well, there's quite a lot of people who listen to it and who enjoy it.
Yeah, and I guess so. It's just
But isn't that the point of football? It's, you enjoy watching the games, hopefully. not too much of that over the last 6 years. And fans whether down the pub after the game, on social media or on a podcast, talking about it. And, that's fans being fans. That is part of fan culture. And, of course, everyone's going to have an opinion. I think there's a lot of boneheaded opinions, to be honest. I think a lot of them, there's a Venn diagram of people who, think, Mourinho was the truth and the only truth. The earth is flat and we should bin Pogba and De Gea, especially Pogba. And I'd say it's less of a Venn diagram than a single circle of those kind of people. And that's a pretty frustrating conversation to have with people. I was critical of De Gea on this podcast. It's obvious he's not in great form. Paul Pogba's form has dropped off a cliff too, although I think he still does some very good things in games, but
he was pretty good today, I thought.
He was all right today, yeah. He's the only one, right? And when I say he's dropped off a cliff, I think his standards have actually been very high, despite what you might have heard from the previous manager and despite what you hear from week to week from some people. And I was trying to make that point in a friendly conversation with our friend of the pod, Darren Richmond. On Twitter, which is, I think, and Twitter's a very hard place to have a conversation that's not reductive, but I think his standards are very high, Pogba. And I think given the quality that he's got around him, he's the one that's trying to push United to play more progressive football, more attacking football, more inventive football, more creative football. And there's no one else going to do it. And if it's not him, who is it? Do you think if we bin him, spend 100 million on a midfielder, that we're going to build a structure around that player? Or that we're going to buy the right midfielder? We're not going to just, go out and spunk it on Andreas Iniesta or something like that, or some waning name. I just like you build around the talent you've got, is my view. Not everyone thinks that, clearly.
No, I mean the other thing is like I'm very up for describing the people that think Mourinho was right as boneheaded, but they might be right and I might be wrong because I'm only
No.
it's only no, I mean
No. I mean, look, if Mourinho did half the job he was supposed to do, Ole wouldn't be in the job now.
And listen, when I say that, what I mean is they might have some points which are right in some areas.
Which is the quality of the squad isn't as high as it should be, given the wealth that this club has and the money that we've spent. Then again, Mourinho spent an awful lot of that money, and not all of his purchases have been very successful. So, two of whom were on the bench today against City and fully deserved it, I'd say, in terms of their performances this season, Matic and Lukaku. And another one, Sanchez, should never get off the bench, ever.
He did though. Had a little run around. I'm upset about Anthony Martial playing terribly week after week at the moment.
He was very bad against Everton, sadly.
I hope this is as a consequence of being slow to come back from his injury rather than because he put in a massive shift, got a massive contract and is now coasting. I would hate to think that's what's going on.
I mean, look, I think to come back to the point you made about fans criticising Ole and saying, we made the appointment too soon. I don't know that yet. And I kind of feel like I made this point about David Moyes, maybe not David Moyes, Van Gaal and Mourinho. It's pretty hard to say until a manager's had a transfer window or two and is able to shape the squad to his liking, to the type of football he wants, and he's able to sort of build. The concerning thing, and I think I talked about the caveats earlier, is just how much United have fallen off a cliff in these last few weeks.
Yeah.
And just how hard it is to turn around that kind of confidence, and reports that the players were having a go at each other for an hour after the game in the dressing room are pretty concerning.
Well, I'm not sure they are, to be honest. I kind of feel like that's the kind of game after which they all need to have a massive row with each other and then make up.
Yeah.
It's just the whether they then make up part. And I just want to clarify something. I know this is you don't need me to clarify this, but someone out there probably does. I'm not saying people shouldn't be critical of Ole in terms of his decisions or anything that they disagree with in specifics or whatever. But it's the kind of, he's a fraud, blah blah blah, all that. It just does my head in. It's. I know it's opt-in. That stuff, you don't have to see that stuff, but it makes the whole, because when you do a podcast like this, one of the things I liked, because if we, as well as talking about the games, we like to talk about the culture around the club and what's going on, and what Eric Cantona's up to on Instagram and all this kind of stuff, and like I made a point of watching that Solskjaer interview with Gary Neville mostly because of this, right, that we do this. So I do like to kind of keep a little bit of an eye on what people are saying and feeling, but it's just so depressing. But to be honest, that applies to literally all walks of life. So that's,
dear. I think Paul needs a hug.
No, but you know what I mean. Like if you read commentary of people who are following basically any subject, you'll very soon be depressed.
Well, sure, but there is good commentary too, and I maybe we can provide the good commentary. So media is basically split into different types of takes, right? That is modern media. It's takes, and we hopefully provide a depth of take which isn't just people yelling at each other, which is about 99% of media, right? Whether it's yelling at each other in all caps on Twitter, or on talk shows or news, whatever. So I think that's only happened like 3 times in 9 years that we've actually yelled at each other on the So we don't do what media 101. You want to build something that's popular. You build the media around the tension, don't you? Everything's conflict, and so like perhaps we should be proper rank cast and be shouting at each other or something like that. I did call you Farage on the WhatsApp group, so
you did for what I believe to be deeply unjustified reasons. In fact, I was just thinking we should pivot to the tension and discuss the thing that the reason that you call me Farage is because I very sincerely think we should drop De Gea against Chelsea. I'm not joking. I'm not being reactive. That's my honest take on this. Is I think he needs to be taken out of the firing line for a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's a UKIP opinion. I really don't. Because I want, just to be clear, I want to replace him with another immigrant. I don't want to recall Dean Henderson from loan.
No, I'm joking. But talking about Venn diagrams, I think the Venn diagram of people who are like, "Whoa, Pogba out," and Brexit means Brexit is pretty tight. And
I think that's really unfair. I really do, because none of the people that I know who are Pogba out, and there are some.
But there are an awful lot of them. And to be fair, yes, many people we know are not that. Anyway, De Gea dropped. I might have a different opinion on this if it was the middle of December. And I felt that, a few weeks out in order to come back refreshed, and everyone understood that's what it is, was the decision. With 3 games to go in the season, what point are you making? I mean, you can't drop him for 1 game. You're dropping him for the rest of the season, and then with the contract negotiations hanging over De Gea, which is I'm just going to guess. I don't know. It's just an opinion. I think is probably the thing that's destroyed his focus most of all. Right? He's unsure about what he wants to do with his life, and I would be as well. A player of his quality, if not the best keeper in the world on current form, then in terms of his quality, very much the best goalkeeper in the world, or potential to be. Should he be in a team that is 6th with 64 points and heading for a 4th season in the last 6 out of the Champions League? Of course he shouldn't be, I'm not surprised his focus has gone. But 3 games before the end of the season, I don't know. I think that makes a weird statement, that one.
But okay, so that's an important point.
Because you're just dropping him. You're not dropping him for he needs to be taken out of the firing line. You're just dropping him.
So I guess what I'm saying, I guess I was being a little euphemistic when I said take him out the fire line. We've got 3 games left, and if we win all 3 of those games, there is some chance we'll be getting into Europe, like into the Champions League, because we're 2 points behind Arsenal. So if they lose any of their 3 games, so they've got Leicester away, which they're more than capable of losing next Sunday.
And they're not in great form either, Arsenal, by the way. Lost at the weekend as well.
And just lost tonight to Wolves. Got battered by Wolves. I mean, all the cool kids are getting battered by Wolves. But anyway, and we play Chelsea at the weekend, so we can swap places with them.
No, look, it is a pragmatic argument. It's a sound pragmatic argument. I'm not sure I'm there yet, but of course, if Ole does it and makes the gamble, and Ferguson made that kind of gamble, FA Cup final replay 1990, the biggest one of all.
And then Jim Leighton never, David De Gea never talks to Ole Gunnar Solkjaer again until the rest of his
right.
life.
Never plays for the club, disappears off to Real Madrid this summer. Maybe. And that's how frustrating it is that United lost this game tonight, where, of course, they were second best, but they lost in tiny details and weren't able to get something against Everton and just threw it away because Chelsea and Arsenal and Spurs are dropping points all over the place. I mean, Spurs only just pulled one out of the fire against Brighton the other night.
I mean, I've seen a lot of people say this, Ed, and I completely understand it, but the level of destroyed that we got by Everton makes me find it hard to be like, oh, if only,
I know. But it's one of those games that you expect United to get something out of. Everton
I agree.
Very much a mid-table side with mid-table levels of consistency. So,
and what's interesting, of course, is that what's happened in the last 2 games is that the top 2 have extended the gap on the chasing pack, and the chasing pack have all basically bricked it like one after the other. The chasing pack of us, Arsenal, Chelsea and Spurs have all just massively underperformed. I mean, of course, Spurs had that incredible result that people seem to enjoy listening to us watch.
Spurs did at least do the decent thing and win the right game and lose the right game. In that one. So, it could well be that third place is 20 points behind them with by the end of the season, which
Yeah,
is astonishing, really, and says something about the state that I don't want to say quality, but the state that the rest of the league is in right now.
But I also think, and I know this is like not the forum in which to say this in any possible way, but it also speaks to what an extraordinary season Liverpool and City are having. I mean, they are. If we were anything other than Man United fans, if we were football fans of any other ilk, I guess maybe except Everton, like this would be a kind of standing ovation type performance from both of those clubs, like for just the sheer achievement on a football sense.
Well, sure, because above 90 points, which is what they'll both get, is a very high points total in a historical context. It's very hard to talk about points from season to season because it really does matter on what the level of competition is in any one season. The fact that Spurs, Chelsea, Arsenal and United are extremely inconsistent. I mean, Spurs have lost 11 games this season. That's nearly 40 games lost between them, like those four teams this season.
Yeah.
Right? Incredibly inconsistent. So that's got a lot to do with the size of the gap. And of course, you know, Liverpool having lost just the once and City are very consistent. You know, I don't go as far as one commentator this week and said that Liverpool should be called, or whoever comes second should be called associate champions. I just think that's nonsense, right? Second is nowhere. You lost. You don't call Bayern Munich associate champions for the 99, do you? You know?
No, or like perhaps even more opposite, you don't call Arsenal associate league champions from that season, and they pushed United to the last day of the season.
Right.
Got to the semi-final of the Cup. You know,
and then Arsenal, that was an incredible side that had won the double the year before.
Yeah.
And was fractions away from winning the double that season.
Absolutely.
So.
But we won the treble, in fact.
Yeah. And that's, of course, is something that City won't be doing this season.
And Liverpool aren't going to win the league. So it's all going to work out just fine, apart from for the only bit that works out fine is the Schadenfreude. And that's heavily contextualised by the fact that actually Man City are
Schadenfreude,
Yeah, because Man City are going to win the league. And actually, the reason that Liverpool should be called associate champions has nothing to do with how close they run them. It's to do with the fact that City have been financially doping and shouldn't be anywhere near the position that they're in. And we should be champions from last season.
No,
so Mourinho should have another league title.
Shows you how precious City have got. And Pep Guardiola has got, he got a bit riled up by Ole talking about the number of fouls that City make with a high press, which is totally accurate. They make a very low number of fouls in terms of the overall total number of fouls in the league. But fouls per minute, they are number one in the Premier League, and most of them are in the opposition's defensive third. You know, so
wait, how can fouls per minute
of possession?
Oh, okay, right.
Because they average like 70% possession.
Yeah, okay. You missed that part of
non-possession.
It's a key difference.
Yeah, and it's like one, a stupid, weird stat, but I think it just backs up the point Ollie was making, which is a perfectly fair point. What he should have said, of course, is that City have cheated their way to the title by spending 1.5 billion of a sovereign wealth fund and trying to cover it up through a bunch of shell companies and fake sponsorships. And then Pep's been injecting all these players with drugs.
Well, let's leave that last part out. But the rest of it, also, the reason that all that's been happening...
That was a joke. Joke for any lawyers.
The reason that all that's been happening is in order to distract people's attention from human rights abuses. So, there you go. Anyway, enough about all that, because that is not coming from a place of football bitterness. It just sounds like it is because we've just lost to them in the derby. The where we go from here question, I think we've done our best to have a little go at that. I mean, top four is definitely the aim next season, and I think it's a real shame that that's the case. One thing I want to say about Pep, though, do you remember when Mourinho, before the Champions League semi-final in 2011, when Madrid and Barca played in the Champions League semi-final, and Mourinho said, Guardiola is now, I think it was after the Copa del Rey, when Mourinho said Guardiola is now inventing a new thing to complain about, which is when referees get the decision correct.
Right.
he was complaining about VAR, getting two decisions absolutely bang on, which caused them to go out of the Champions League. So Mourinho's right again. I'm a Jose apologist now. Ole out. No, I'm not.
Flat earther.
All right. I guess talking of flat earthers, do we have to take some, not our listeners, but just Twitter in general is why there are flat earthers now again. Should we take some Twitter questions?
All right, let's get to some questions. There are quite a lot of them. We'll do the best we can. Oye Yopanyai, friend of the pod, says...
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And totally butchered his name there, I suspect. Sorry about that. Since Ed Woodward and the board aren't leaving our club anytime soon, what's the most we can hope for over the next 5 seasons? Is a director of football enough to change things for the better?
So remember a second ago when I said, Ed, try not to pick any questions which are about things we've already talked about?
Yeah, no, I know, but we didn't answer it specifically. Yeah. Building over the next 5 seasons, and you would hope there would be a shot at the title at some point in there. But from here, I mean, we finished second last season, not that it was an actual competitive race at any point. But you'd say, if we make the right kind of purchases there, perhaps we can build on that. But it really looks like the squad isn't in a state for that to be true, and it's going to take 3 seasons of spending in the right way to get back to a shot at the title. It looks like.
Sure.
It's a director of football. Yeah, I don't know whether it's at this point it's short code for modernizing the scouting and acquisitions department. In some way that we can both do the right kind of deals, the right kind of structure of deals, don't get ripped off like we did with Sanchez and so many others, and just be much, much more intelligent and smart about it and make the right kind of purchases and don't fail so often, because that's what top clubs do.
Talking of top clubs, Kat, friend of the show, Kat at Manchester Red, says, have you had a chance to see the women play since Charlton away? If not, definitely worth heading to Leigh Sports Village for the final game of the season to see them lift the cup on the 11th of May. Something to smile about. Yeah, I'm not able to go, but I would highly encourage anyone to get down there. Promoted earlier in the week, then confirmed as champions. A fantastic season. I guess we talked about the promotion last week. I remember us talking about that, and that's a huge achievement, and I think it looked like Leigh Sports Village was pretty busy from the clips I saw of the last game.
Yeah, I mean they've had some really good crowds this season. Really only second to City and Chelsea in the whole of the English game, I think, in terms of some of the crowds. I mean, over 4,000 at one match, and really great achievement from nothing. To getting a squad of strangers together, appointing a brand new coach, and winning their league. I mean, what I'd say about the Women's Championship is there's a big gap between the top and the bottom. You know, it goes from professionalism to basically semi-amateur. United will definitely be tested more next season. I assume they're going to do some recruitment because they'll need it, because they've had some good performances and some okay results against lower half Super League teams in cup competitions this season. So yeah, they'll need to strengthen, but it's been good watching them. So
yeah, no, absolutely. It's going to be fascinating to see how they do next season. As I said last week, at Matt Fajner says, since United depresses me, how excited are you guys for Endgame? I still haven't seen Captain Marvel, and Endgame's coming out tomorrow. I think I might just end up watching Captain Marvel after Endgame, which is not right. It's not right. It's the first time I've done any of them out of order.
Stream it tomorrow, and
it's not on the streaming service.
Download it from the interwebs.
I'm not doing that. I'm not stealing it. I wouldn't download a car, although this week, as has been widely covered, loads of people downloaded a car effectively.
Yeah, no. I think this narrative was set by the content industry. They what they should do is modernize so you can get access to these things in the way that suits people's lifestyles.
I mean, you can. You just have to wait a bit.
Yeah, but I know plenty of people in the media industry. That window. Sorry, we're going totally off script here, but it was prompted by the question. But that window of the premium window between theatrical release and streaming and home media release is getting shorter and shorter all the time, because the way people consume media is changing rapidly. And although numbers in numbers in terms of total box office has retained its value because cinemas and distributors have been pretty clever about how to get premium value out of certain types of tickets. The numbers of people going to cinema is obviously falling because people want their media in different formats. So anyway, not long for the world. That
cinema's
premium.
good though. Like cinema
is good, but that's why you pay 15 quid for a ticket.
Yeah, which was why, by the way, I was very happy to pay $9.99 for Into the Spider-Verse as soon as it came on streaming, because I did not go and see it in the cinema, and I was like, oh, this is literally the price I would have paid to go and see it. Really good movie. Has Harvey seen it yet, Ed?
He has several times, yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. Of course, several times. All right, at AB5Y says, O'Farrell equals Moyes, Doherty equals Van Gaal, Sexton equals Mourinho, Atkinson equals Solskjaer. Listen, if you think that, I mean, I guess.
Only some, a penchant for attacking football, loving the club, getting the culture. That bit, I'm not sure I've heard Ollie be a big fat racist yet.
Yeah, he does say I'm not looking forward to Ole's opinions on minorities, to be honest. So yeah, hopefully that will go all right. I think it will. Seems all right to me, Ole, in that regard. But the which one of Van Gaal or Mourinho is Sexton? I think it's got to be Van Gaal, because that was, I mean, I know the Mourinho football just got awful. It wasn't like sort of functional, but just so dull that he got sacked, which is what happened to both Sexton and Van Gaal.
Yeah, in different ways. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sexton was a pragmatist and Van Gaal was a purist.
Yes, very true. So I guess in that case, Mourinho, Sexton kind of works.
Kind of.
Doherty was a sort of, but both Van Gaal and Mourinho are slightly Doherty-esque characters, aren't they?
Daniel Fieldhouse says, what would be the attendance for a Phil Jones testimonial? And do you reckon he'd be fit for it? I'm asking this one because I think this is a question for you.
He definitely wouldn't be fit for it. And the attendance...
out his contract. He's going to be at the club. He's going to earn one.
The attendance will be 35,000 because people will go to anything.
Yeah. Yeah, but not that many people. Phil Jones testimonial. Him and when Smalling's testimonial up as well. It's got to be around the same time.
Yeah. At Nate Dunning says, why does this hurt so much? Which I said not to pick stuff we've already talked about, which is clearly something we've already talked about. But definitely for me, this is the most it's hurt for a long time. Yeah. So anyway. Oh God, Martin Tyler, right? So Joey Mangini says, do you remember what a good cross looks like? Yeah, me neither. Martin Tyler saying on the Sky coverage that Ashley Young was being unfairly criticised or scapegoated by United fans.
Yeah,
and it's no, he isn't. It is entirely proportional to his performances. And then he said, Young kind of put in a really bad cross, obviously, from a really good position, obviously. And then Tyler said, "Oh, what was needed there was one of his really good crosses." Yeah. It's like, yeah, one of every 600 or so,
Yeah. Ashley Young used to have one trick, which was to cut back from his left foot onto his right foot from the right wing and left wing and float it towards the back post. He's got one trick now, which is to lash it about 40 yards over all his. Two tricks. I lie. Either he lashes it over all the incoming strikers, which he does frequently, or he hits the first man. That's it.
I mean,
talking to pundits, Graham Souness repeatedly calling Paul Pogba Drogba.
Yeah.
It kind of sums him up, doesn't it?
It does. But I also think it's not fair to say that Ashley Young used to have one trick, which was to cut inside and float it to the back post, because he also sometimes used to cut inside and smash into the top corner.
Yeah, occasionally. Good question, this one, from the aforementioned Darren Richmond. Who's our player of the season? Fergie for getting better? But the first part of that, who's our player of the season?
They should not host a player of the season.
Just a manager's player of the season.
So just give it Scott McTominay. But no,
Shaw, Victor Lindelof.
Fergie getting better was probably the best moment of the season. But Victor Lindelof was dreadful up until what? The last, I guess Victor Lindelof.
On numbers, it's going to be Pogba because he's still our top scorer, I believe, but the consistency means that he probably won't be voted. Probably.
I don't think so. I mean, it's voted by, there's the players one and then there's the fans vote. Pogba's not winning the fans vote in a million years. Because even just scrolling through those questions, there was loads of kind of anti-Pogba questions. He's not winning the fans vote. I guess it's the kind of, you know how when Richard Osman did the World Cup of chocolate bars and Dairy Milk won? Because in the end, the least offensive choice wins a lot of times with votes. Although not always. Given recent referendum results. But the kind of, I guess the kind of middle of the road. Luke Shaw keeps winning Player of the Month. He's won like 3 Player of the Month awards, so I guess it'll be him. But yeah. I don't think it should be really. I think it should probably be Lindelof.
Yeah, difficult one. We'll see. Well, we couple of weeks till we've got to do our famous end of season Rankcast Awards.
I don't want to.
Yeah, we're going to do it. You're going to pull your finger out. We're going to do it because that's what we do.
They don't deserve it. They don't. Who deserves praise for their performance over the course of this season? Well, I tell you what we'll do. We'll do Rankcast Awards from the date that Ole got appointed till Marcus Rashford put that penalty in against PSG. That'll be. That's when that's the period. Yeah, exactly. That is the period covered by the awards. We're not doing that.
Jake at Born_and_Red says nobody's mentioned him, but what about Carlos Queiroz for Director of Football? Well known, high football IQ, experience working, negotiating with top talent. Assume he has built a pretty extensive network of contacts. Kind of interesting. I mean, he's available because he's after 8 years as Iran coach, a very successful spell. He's now back on the market. I don't know. I mean, I assume he's got an extensive network of contacts across Europe, but how in touch is he with sort of top league European football? Not sure. Interesting shout though.
Yeah, I feel like this is kind of what refers to what I was saying earlier. I don't think, except for some very, very well-informed exceptions, people like us, fan channels on YouTube, bloggers, people on Twitter, or even like most journalists should be talking about who should be United's director of football, because unless the answer is Eric Cantona, obviously, but generally speaking, I don't know how any of us could hope to know who would be good at that job.
Well, there's a market for it. I mean, I don't know if I just fully agree with that, because I think that's basically the argument of, well, you're not managers, so how can you possibly have an opinion? And I think it's perfectly okay for us to have an opinion. There's a market for this kind of person in Europe, and some we know and then some we don't. And I'm not pretending that I know every single, to cut off your question, every single director of football. It doesn't mean we can't talk about it and answer a bloody question from the listener. What
was my question going to be that you just cut off?
Well, name him then.
No, not name United's director of football. Name a good director of football that you think this is a director of football doing a bang up job at the club he's at.
I don't know. It's all in context with directors of football, isn't it? So
yeah.
And the context being people like Monchi getting the best out of the available funds they got at Roma, or people like Van der Sar as well, sort of director of football, and in fact more senior than that now, trying to build a long-term pattern for his team at Ajax or Juventus, where they've had a very smart plan to transition the team over 3-year cycles. So there are Begiristan at Manchester City, who they've created the blueprint for a structure not only of their own football club but a network of football clubs so they can wash players through it. So clearly there are blueprints for this kind of role, and people who do it very well. Much in the same way, there are excellent executives and there are excellent football coaches and there are excellent players.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Right. Good answer. We can just be the club that believes that a former banker from JP Morgan has suddenly become the world's expert at picking players, and he's going to pick all the players better than anyone else in the whole of European football.
Wait, are you saying that? Why was...
No,
was that directed
I'm
at me,
shouting
or
at
are
the
you
concept
just...
of...
Okay, right, okay. Because I was saying, I think it's crazy to speculate on who should be the director. Not crazy, but... Okay, I guess I'll just own it and say I haven't got a clue and I've got no interest in knowing or speculating. That's just a personal perspective. I can't answer any questions about whether Carlos Queiroz would be a good director.
No, I don't know.
It's a great question. It's an interesting, super interesting question. I'm not dismissing it in that sense. But
well, should we just stop this podcast here? Because, I don't know, it feels like you don't want to talk about anything. Bart Bucarac says, what is Ed Woodward's strategy for identifying players? I suspect it's looking at the back page of the Daily Star or the Sun. We won't answer that one. Probably is, Bart.
Yeah. All right. So we've got games, at least a game coming up, I think. We're just going to preview the Chelsea game and do another podcast after that.
We're going to lose.
I think we'll beat them.
You said that before, yeah.
I think they're rubbish, but
they are
rubbish,
and they've been losing lots of games too.
So are we, though.
We're pretty rubbish.
7
in 9. That says we're pretty rubbish.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I can't actually be confident about this game. This is like two people fighting with one hand tied behind their back, basically.
Yeah. They were rubbish against Burnley. They were very, very pathetic against Liverpool. They sneaked a win against Slavia Prague in the Europa League. They weren't particularly impressive when they beat West Ham.
I thought they were all right against Liverpool, but maybe I'm being overly generous.
You are, God.
Like Hazard was clean through that time and hit the post and had another real good chance shortly after that. One was cut back, and they had some chance. Maybe their overall performance was not good, but they did make a few chances in that game.
They've got some players that can hurt us. Obviously. Hazard, of course, you know. Mm-hmm. Hudson-Odoi's out. He's injured himself. Presume that's no longer the last time he'll ever play for Chelsea. I mean, we'll see whether Surrey makes it through the summer. And
that's a fascinating question, isn't it?
It is a fascinating question. I mean, Abramovich hasn't sacked him yet, and the rumours haven't been swirling because normally, you know, the Team Chelsea board leaks this stuff like a sieve, don't they? So
yeah, it's weird though.
We might have heard already if Surrey was getting the boot.
It's weird though, isn't it? Because they didn't sack Conte until pre-season. It was so strange because it was a dead man walking from Christmas last year, and then they were like in the middle of... They played I think Conte took charge of a pre-season game for Chelsea this season, which is absolutely baffling. So, I mean, it's clear... Talk about like being ill-informed, but it is very clear that Abramovich has fundamentally changed his relationship with Chelsea, isn't it? Because he's obviously not involved in the same way that he has been.
Oh no, he can't be. He's not allowed in the country anymore.
Yes. Is he actually not allowed to visit, or is he just not allowed to live here?
No, presumably he's like... I don't know that one, given that he was denied a work permit for security reasons. Yeah, he may not be allowed to even visit.
Crazy.
He took up Israeli citizenship, I believe.
Right. Anyway, so that's... They've obviously like play this kind of properly Van Gaal-esque possession football. Higuain, by the way, Ed, I was kind of optimistic. You were so right. You were so right. You know, I was kind of like I was almost a bit surprised by how vociferous you were that Higuain was a terrible signing. To me, it seemed like a real good signing. But no, you were absolutely right. It's a really terrible signing it's turned out to be.
Yeah. I'm not going to... Yeah, I won't go on about that one. I just thought it looked like he'd gone so much.
Yeah.
That it's one of those ones you rarely see a player come back from. Much like Alexis.
Yeah. But hopefully not Dave. I don't know. I'm nervous. The one thing that I was thinking about De Gea though was you almost wouldn't be surprised to hear that something actually bad had been happening, you know, that he was having some personal difficulties or something, because it's been such a marked, shocking drop in form. And you wonder whether really contract negotiations would do this to somebody who's been, you know, he was always very professional. Even when he was going to leave to go to Madrid, he was very professional. There was a lot of, you know, so it's been very strange to see him
Or he's made the decision and it's not negotiations, it's he's leaving.
Yeah, or he's got the yips. Because it does happen. You know, when you perform at the level that De Gea's performed at, you are a finely honed machine, aren't you? So it doesn't take that much to go wrong to get the yips for a keeper.
Anyway, let's hope he doesn't get any yips against Chelsea, or he's not in the team if you get your way with Ole. What do you think about the result? We'll record after Everton, right? And we got
Chelsea
Huddersfield after that, or something like that, haven't we?
Yeah, because there's a week between. So I think we're planning to, even though this might just come out a little bit before the Chelsea game, we're planning to do another probably shorter podcast with proper bonus content, because it's now really late at night in the UK. So we're not going to do bonus content for fear that Ed's family will fall apart if he keeps them up any longer, among other reasons.
Nothing to do with you might want to get to bed or anything like that.
Absolutely not. Nothing to do with the clear enthusiasm I've had for this episode since it started that I've demonstrated all the way through. No, I don't want to talk about that. No, this is stupid. No, we shouldn't be talking about this. I apologise, everyone, for this, which is definitely not the worst episode ever, because that was when I just came back from being seriously ill and Jose Mourinho was the manager, which was a devastating combination. But yeah, we'll be back with another podcast, probably a shorter main pod and then long bonus content at the end for Patreon backers. We'll do that after the Chelsea game. Score prediction 0-0. No, 1-1.
You said we were going to win.
1-1.
You can't predict we're going to win last week and predict we're going to win this week and then say 1-1. You know what a win is.
You're telling me that this week that's just gone by, I can't have affected my perception on how United are doing overall.
You said not 5 minutes ago on this here pod that we're going to beat them.
I was only being silly, though.
It's late at night. You've been smoking something. Yeah, we're clearly going to lose. So 1-0 to Chelsea. Yes.
Why do you think we're going to lose? Because, I mean, Chelsea are barely in better form than us, right?
Yeah, but they are. They haven't lost 7 in 9.
Fair enough. Listen. That is a good argument.
Maybe we should just all go and boycott this game and go and watch Endgame instead. It may be the end game for Ole's managerial reign at United if we lose this one.
Nobody's talking about that, are they? I mean, not anyone serious.
Not yet. We didn't talk about it on this show, but there's an interesting question about whether he'd have got the job if they had waited to the summer. Not saying should, just whether he would have done. Given that Woodward doesn't make rational decisions, they're all emotional and from the gut, which is why he makes so many bad ones.
Oh.
I'm not saying this is a bad one, by the way. I'm not saying this is a bad one. He just makes a lot of bad ones.
I think that's interesting. I wonder whether that's true. That it's because anyway, there's a whole conversation to be had about head versus heart, but not now because it's too late and both my head and my heart want to go to bed.
All right, we'll let you do that.
Not think about United at all between now and whenever we kick off on Sunday.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. Also, sorry. See you next week. Bye.
Bye now.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.